Good morning, Christos.
Good morning, good afternoon, or whatever the time is. Oh, look, my blue screen is not going all the way to the edge, and you see that little bit of my my desk over there. Nice.
That's
I
okay.
need to fix that. I need to fix it. There's not enough space around here. Oh
I
God.
know.
Anyway, Tuesday morning, back from a long weekend.
Yeah, did you have a good
Uh,
holiday?
I was good. It was good.
Yeah.
I got to do a little bit of coding yesterday.
Nice. Okay.
My wife was like, you're not supposed to be working. I was like, you do know that this is not work, right? This is fun.
Yeah, well.
It's hard to explain.
I don't know. I mean, my kids went out yesterday and played with the next door neighbor, and they were out there from like 11 till 6. So I was
Nice.
actually really productive yesterday. So,
I thought they were going to the swimming pool.
well,
That didn't happen.
well, no, because amazingly enough, at like 9 a.m., it was like 62 degrees here. It was pretty chilly. It
Oh,
was too chilly for the pool.
too chilly for the pool. Can you believe
I
that?
know. I mean, just like not 5 days ago, it was like 85 degrees in the morning and 95 in the afternoon, and here it is 60 something in the afternoon, and so they're like, well, I guess we're not gonna go to the pool. so so they didn't go to the pool. So
Oh man. Well, but they had the blast, I suppose, because if they were out from 11 to, you say 11 to 6?
yeah, I mean, at one point my son came in and he because he's 6, he'll be 7 soon. And he didn't see anybody in the kitchen when he came in from the garage, and so he yells as loud as
Yeah.
he can to make sure that we all hear him.
Is anybody
He's like, "We
here?
need lunch." So we're like, "Oh, okay." And
Uh,
so like, I was
nice.
I was in the other room, my wife's in the other room, and we came out. We're like, "Okay, well, yeah, we'll make you some lunch. We're right here." And he's like, "Well,
Nice.
I think I'm gonna need it delivered." He wanted us to deliver his lunch to the driveway where he
Oh,
would
he
play.
wants it delivered.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, look at this guy. 6 years old, he already knows the modern economy.
Yeah, I
I
might have
know,
to
right?
get lunch delivered today because we've got a long day ahead of us. We've got a bit of a marathon today.
We do have well, I wouldn't call it a stream marathon because I've seen some people do 8 and 9 and 10 hours and 15 hours on
That is true.
stream. But for us, it's going to be a long day because we've got a packed 3 hours of coding with Xamarin and Azure and .NET. And then we're jumping onto the ASP.NET community hour, stand-up, community stand-up, they call it. And we're talking to John Galloway and the .NET folks about some new identity stuff that are coming or is coming to ASP.NET Core. It's
Nice. And
exciting.
that's at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific.
10, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Yes.
Nice.
God, I need to operate in two time zones now or more.
I have a clock on my desk set just to West Coast, so that whenever I'm on a phone call with somebody and they say, "Can you meet us at 4 p.m.?" and I'm like, "Wait a minute, we've got a meeting in half an hour," and you're looking at your clock like, "Wait a minute, we do." So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, long weekend, good weekend. The weather was nice. Although yesterday we got a big whiff of the California fires, I think,
Oh yeah.
or something is burning nearby, and the whole air smelled of burned wood. Kids were freaking out. They thought the fire was just next door. I was like, no, no, it's coming from a few thousand miles away, if that's the case. But it smelled really, it was a strong smell,
Yeah.
which was unsettling considering that how many thousands of, what's it called? The size of the forest that has been burned down.
Oh yeah. It's been wild. Like all because of a gender reveal party. Hmm.
I know. It's
Maybe
crazy.
I'm just too
But
old, but I don't know. We found out the gender of our kids, I just texted my family. I was like, "Hey, it's gonna be a boy." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And everybody went about their business, but I guess that's the thing now, right? That's what people like to do.
it is a thing, right? So we jump in and talk about what we're going to do today.
Yeah, what are we gonna do today?
Well, we have promised Xamarin and B2C, so people that are jumping on our stream, hopefully they're expecting to see that. So we will be adding authentication to to a Xamarin app, a
Okay.
Xamarin Forms app. using Azure AD B2C. So if you are a normal developer and you need to manage your users, then B2C is the solution, right? You create a B2C app, you add the appropriate code into your solution, and then that allows you to authenticate users with either username and password or their social media accounts, depending on how you set up your B2C app.
Nice.
But I thought that was going to be fairly straightforward. Now, in saying that, you know what's happening, right? But if everything goes according to plan, and we've done a few demos ourselves, if everything goes according to plan, that's probably going to be wrapped up in about an hour. So that leaves us with 2 hours, and we're like, what are we going to do for the rest of 2 hours? And we thought, how about we pivot the authentication for Xamarin apps to a line of business app or an enterprise developer? So if you are an enterprise developer and you need to be able to authenticate users with your app, then this Azure AD, which is different to Azure AD B2C, and allows you to authenticate against a tenant in your org. But we're not stopping there. We're also adding Microsoft Graph. So I think what we worked out yesterday was, hey, how about we maybe add Graph? So as you load the app, you can see all the people you collaborate very, very frequently. There's a nice graph call that allows you to pool all that information across, and it allows you to see which people you work more frequently. And for that reason, I decided to call my app my colleagues. But the name is up for debate. Maybe we can decide to call it something else. How about, I don't know, my peeps or my buddies or whatever. But that's the plan. Azure AD with Graph for the second part of the show.
Nice.
Yeah, so nice. So without further ado, let's get started. If you are wondering how we go about doing that, there is documentation. There is ample documentation in our docs. So for the B2C stuff, it was quite straightforward finding. You just search for Xamarin with B2C, and lo and behold, you got a sample. Now, what's missing from here?
Wait, what's missing from what?
From the documentation.
Where do you want to start? Well, okay, so let's see. So we have to create a tenant. Yeah, we've got to register our app as a tenant, get our policies. Yep, and then configure MSAL. So I don't know what's missing.
Well, this is complete. This is fine.
Oh, so what's missing from the docs?
I was thinking about the authentication here. We're missing a few bits, like Azure AD.
Oh.
It's like,
well, so this
is supposed to be our first party documentation, and we forgot about AD.
So these are the
or people don't do
these are the Xamarin docs.
That is correct, sir.
I see. So scroll up a little bit. When was this last updated?
Yeah. Let's have a look.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's only, well, I mean, compared to some, that's not too bad. It's less than a year old.
It's actually a year and 3 months old.
Yeah.
Or 4 months. 5 months. 5 months. We're into September. Unbelievable. So we're going to follow this one. We'll divert a little bit to make it a little bit more simple. And for that, we're going to create our Azure AD a B2C app. We're going to register it, and then we'll come back and write some code. And from there, we'll just add authentication. It will be a very simple application. It will be a sign-in button. It will take you to the sign-in page. If you're already signed in, it will just display some of the claims that are in the token.
Okay.
Right?
So
let's get...
So what's your... what do we have configured in B2C right now?
Right now, we have already an app, but I want to do it from scratch. So
okay,
these are our B2C tenant here.
Okay.
And let's go and create a new app registration. We will name it Xamarin B2C, I suppose.
Sure.
And then we're going to add accounts in any organization and any identity provider. So that allows us to bring social media accounts into B2C. I'm going to leave the redirect URI as it is, and I'm going to just register the app here.
Okay.
So far I've only added a name, and I haven't changed anything. That's the default settings, right?
Yep.
This is it.
Yep.
And now we have the app. We need to go and add authentication here. So let's add the platform. And nicely here we have different kind of platforms that we can work with. It's not a web, it's not a single page app. And we're not using the native clients, so we're not writing in Java or Kotlin or Swift. interestingly enough, it says Xamarin up here, right?
Yeah.
But this is for Xamarin so Xamarin iOS or Xamarin Android. But since we're going to be working with Xamarin Forms, we're just going to use that one, the mobile apps.
Okay, so it says,
And down here.
hang on a second. So I haven't used Xamarin much, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
Xamarin Android and Xamarin iOS, those are native-ish, right? I mean, what's the difference
Yes.
between the, and then Forms is some sort of like a
An abstraction.
a UI abstraction on top of it?
Correct. So let's say you only wanted to write Android, right?
Okay.
In that case, you would use Xamarin Android. It allows you to what Xamarin in effect does. It wraps around the native APIs,
Right.
and when you say I want to create a button, it actually calls an NS button or whatever the native iOS or Android button is. So as a .NET developer, you don't really need to know the APIs that sit underneath Xamarin. You just work with the Xamarin controls.
So what does Forms do?
So Forms allows you to write the code once, creating a code and UI abstraction, and then target multiple
Okay.
platforms. Back in the good old days when Windows Phone was an option, you could also target a Windows Phone. So you would write the code once, you would create, say, a content page that had maybe some stacked controls there. And then as you write the code, when you build it, it compiles to the individual third parties. And I will maybe guide you through the project as we go through. And then you could run either the iOS app or the Android app or the Windows Phone app. If you were on Windows, you can run Windows Phone on a Mac. And we're on a Mac today. It makes development a lot easier. Also using Visual Studio for Mac. So Forms allows you to abstract that. Now, last year we also announced Cell. So Cell is the iteration, the next version of Xamarin Forms, which makes the UI interactions a lot more fluid and modern and what have you. But I am not a hardcore Xamarin developer, so maybe sometime we'll bring somebody from Xamarin to work with us and maybe modernize the apps that we're at today.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So when it comes to working with Xamarin, you have a few choices there, and we're gonna go with Xamarin Forms because that's the one I've used the most.
So we're doing Forms today. And when you're doing Forms, we have to choose mobile and desktop and Azure AD.
That's what I went with, and it worked.
Okay, cool. Because there's all sorts of other stuff too. There's broker authentication and all sorts of other ways you can authenticate on mobile that you don't really have on desktop, like using the Authenticator app on Microsoft Authenticator app on your phone and letting that sort of handle authentication and call back into your app, stuff like that.
I think that would be a great addition maybe to a later advancement of this starting point, right? So maybe we write these ones, and then I think we have a big plan about how we work with mobile over the next coming weeks and months. So let's keep that at the back of our mind. If you're wondering what other capabilities are, then we will try to cover them as we go through these things. But today we're starting with the basics. So if you've never done authentication before with Xamarin, or if you're new to Xamarin, then we'll take you through the paces of how to set it up and how it works. Right? Here, I'm going to click on both. We're going to be using the MSAL because this is for if you're using the MSAL library. And I'm not going to add any custom redirects here. And just going to do a configure.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
I think that's all we need here, right? We're not doing anything else. We don't need any secrets. We don't need any API permissions. So we're done. The next step is to go and add a user flow. So the user flow is the one that explains how the app is going to interact with the users. If they need to sign in and sign up, if they're first time using the application, they need to sign up as well. Then there are all sorts of other flows. Let's quickly go through these. These are most of the basic ones, right? And 95% of the time you're going to be doing a sign in and sign up. And then you might want to allow your users to edit their profile later, or reset their password, so they don't have to call you and say, "This is my password, I can't log in." So this is all self-service. So in this case, I already have a sign in and sign up policy. Let's go and look into that. So this policy, I allows users to sign in and sign up. I have already defined some identity providers. So you can see here, out of the ones I have configured, Google, Facebook, what have you, I've decided to use a local account. So this is me managing my own users, and then allow people to log in with Twitter. We could add as many as we want. In fact, there is a large number of identity providers if you want to go back out here. And you can define also your own OpenID Connect client, right? Doesn't have to be one of the predefined ones. You can come here, like the other day with Mr. Instafluff, we did a whole stream about how he was adding tweets authentication into his social media or social network app. So anything that works with OpenID Connect can be added here.
Yep.
So back to our flows. Yep. Back to our flows here, just to show how things are working. We have the identity providers. So these two providers over here.
And so we can
we
we can assign.
Yep.
We can choose which identity providers we want to use for each one of these flows, right? Because you might have 28 different flows, and some of them may only be applicable to local accounts, right? And some of them may only be applicable to social accounts, that sort of thing. So you can choose which ones, which flows you want, which identity providers you want for each one of those flows, right?
Correctamendo. So you can have a mix and match kind of approach. You can have all the identity providers configured, and then on your flows, you decide which ones you want to engage.
Right.
And which ones make more sense. User attributes are information you collect when the people sign up to your app. So you might want to enrich a little bit the information that you collect from your users, and that information may not be retained either by social media providers or your tenants. So you might want to explicitly request that information. But when it comes to getting your tokens, why am I jumping around? Sorry, let's go back to my user flows here. And then when it comes to getting the claims back, so when I request my token, what kind of information do I want to request back? I think at minimum, we want to request a display name, so we can display a nice message, and then an email address if we want to interact with the user or anything else. But you can see there's a lot more information down here, like which identity provider they're coming from, maybe job title or postal code if you want that information retained. But for now, we'll stick to these ones. So our application now, we have an app registration, which is here. We'll need some information from here. And then we have the actual flow. That's all we need from B2C. Once you provision your B2C tenant, this is all the information you need. If you are working with social media providers, there's a little bit of a setup because you need to go and set up an application registration inside those tenants. So if we go into my developer twitter.com, we can see that I already have an app configured that matches my my Sishu flow, and that's my app over here. So this is my tenant information.
And each one of these is essentially it's essentially many to one, right? Because it doesn't really, your identity providers are a collection of them at the B2C level. So Twitter and Facebook and Amazon or whoever you've got configured, right? And then you have a collection of applications, right? So you can have one app registered or 10,000 apps registered, whatever. And then you've got the flows. And so each one of those is sort of a many-to-many relationship. You can build them however you need to. So instead of having to build, for example, an app or to register an app at Twitter for every single one of your B2C applications, you register B2C as the application. And then you don't have to worry about integrating Twitter into every individual application because it's integrated with B2C. And then you control which flows use those different social providers, right?
Exactly, yeah. So because I've configured Twitter a long time ago, I didn't have to actually change anything here. As you can see, this points to my tenant. And then down here, we have the B2C flow, right? So which matches our B2C flow up here. So if I go back to our flows, user flows, the name matches.
I'm surprised that works, to be quite honest.
Why?
Because typically you don't need a policy in your callback, because the policy is completely unknown to the upstream identity provider. Right? So like what if you created another policy? Right?
You need to create a new app registration. I couldn't get it to work without the information. In fact, if you go back to the documentation, you'll see that, let's see, Azure AD B2C configure Twitter.
Is it a Twitter specific thing?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's lame. I guess maybe it's because
there you go.
so
So
offline.
here, if you come to the docs, check this out. For the callback URL, see, I've gone through this thing.
That's a damn shame, to be honest. Like, I don't know why you would.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because none of the other identity providers, at least none that I've used, have that requirement that it be flow specific. Like, I don't know. That's too bad. But anyway, I mean, whatever. This is minor detail, but it is kind of lame that it's like that. It should. It must be a limitation on the Twitter side because. Anyway, sorry.
This was update, or it's due to be updated very, very soon, because we found quite a few inconsistencies, and also the UI on the Twitter side of things has changed quite a bit. So some of the fields don't really match. So, for example, there were some information about how to get here. There was some information that was not consistent. So we are working on updating the documentation. But you're right. It's a shame that you have to use the flow. Also, it's a shame that I didn't see that you had to have a lowercase flow name, which meant that when I tried to make it work, I spent a couple of hours trying to troubleshoot. I was like, hi, but it's right. It's exactly the same. I don't see what the problem is.
No, you know, it's funny.
Read the docs.
I'm looking at mine. I'm looking because I've had my Twitter one set up for so long, I don't even remember doing it. And sure enough, there's the flow in the callback URL for Twitter. Damn.
See?
I'm surprised. That's super disappointing. Oh well. Now, have you tried it with a different flow ID? Like if you
I have. Yeah.
And does it blow up and not work?
Well, I had a different flow ID because I was using a different app the last time that we did some samples. I think we did a Blazor one with B2C. The Blazor WASM app. So if you're looking to create a Blazor WASM application, WebAssembly, then we did a B2C test and we blogged about it at our blog. And I had to set up my flow for that. And the flow that I used for that one was the Sisu Simple. So again, you'll notice we have quite a few identity providers here. I managed to get it to work with all of them. Ta-da.
But
anyway,
if you use a different user flow, does Twitter still work?
You have to update the app registration here.
So essentially you add every flow that's going to use Twitter.
Correct. Yes.
No comment. I'm not going to say.
I know.
I won't say anything else.
Okay. So we are going back to what we have, right? We have the user flow that will do the sign in and the sign up for the users. We have the app registration back here. And now we're good to go and create some code. Who's ready for some code? Let's go. Visual Studio for Mac. You can use Visual Studio for Mac. I think there's also a rider if you're using if you're on a Mac. So whatever tool you like the most. And we're gonna do a file, new solution. Let's save that one. That's for later. People. Don't look. And we're going to go and create a blank Forms app. You'll notice here there's a cell Forms app. There's a console. Don't need that. And if you need to decide, like if you were doing multi-platform one, then you come here. So as I said before, with Visual Studio for Mac, you can build anything that has to do with .NET Core. So if we're working with Xamarin, then we have the multi-platform one, right ones, target everything. We have blank, master detail, tab, and cell forms, the next version. Or you can go with just iOS or just Android. And let's go and create one. Next, we're going to name it Xamarin Demo with B2C. So it says which platforms do you want to target? We want to target both Android and iOS. Why not?
Okay.
Right ones run everywhere. Project name. nicely one. It adds a Git version control and also adds a Git ignore, so I don't have to go and do them myself. Otherwise, you can do a .NET new it's .NET new .git ignore if you want a quick way to add a Git ignore to your projects. And that's it. We press create, and it goes and does all the magic. We'll walk through a little bit of on the project structure, and then we'll decide how we want to approach and target this one. I will also be working with Android today, just because. Why not, right? We're on a Mac, but we're working with Android. So Android is set up. I have the latest emulator. And if you are working with emulators or if you're working with Xamarin, you should know that for some time now, we had live, what's it called? It's not live preview. Hot reload.
Hot reload, yeah.
Hot reload.
Yeah.
Yeah, we released that one. So every time you change your XAML, updates the UI, so you don't have to go back and forth. And I think there is an option for the code as well. So if you are changing the code, you can also build and push the deltas into your app, so you don't have to reload the app all the time. It's taking a little bit of a while. Okay, so that solution is up and running. And you'll notice here that we have the main class library, which contains the share code. The nice thing about this is that it also contains the UI elements. So I don't have to really touch the Android or the iOS apps unless I need to tweak the behavior or appearance of certain things. So if everything is defined in XAML, you can choose two options. One is to do XAML with the code behind, or you can do just code behind. So if you like to create your UIs declaratively with code, then you can also do that. I'm not big in XAML, and I haven't done extensive work with C# and Xamarin controls. So I am going to be a noob here, and I'm going to use XAML for the front end. And then for the back end, we're going to be using C# code to code the behavior. There will be some small changes that we need to do on the individual platforms with regards to identity. But other than that, it should be fairly straightforward. Right. Okay, so we have the main app. Let's change that to be the latest. And now we're going to create one page or two pages maybe. One will be the login page, and then the other one will be the login result page. So you launch the app. It will look whether you have something in your MSAL cache. If you're already authenticated, it will take you to the login page, to the login result page. If you're not authenticated, it will prompt you via login button to go and authenticate. And then once you authenticate, you go to the end result page. And that's it. It should be fairly straightforward. To start working with our identity platform, you need a library. So if we come up here to the solution level, we can manage NuGet packages. So let's go and create a NuGet package.
So is there anything here now? Like if you run this, what's there? Anything?
Let's run
just
it.
An empty.
That's a good question. Let's run it. I have the emulator up and running.
Okay.
So it compiles and now it pushes the artifacts into our emulator here. That's what it's doing. In fact, I think you can open the logs down here and see what's happening. And there's also a way to keep this always up and in the front. We'll probably do that later once we start coding stuff. But now it's building for the first time, so it might be a little bit slower for the first time.
Okay.
Also, because we're working with the emulator, it tends to be a little bit of slow when you run the app on the device. So see, we have 15 people with us today. Welcome, everyone. How many of you have been working with Xamarin or Azure AD B2C? Assume some of you are here to learn. I'm curious to see if we are going very 100 level or if it's not advanced enough for some of you. Let us know in the comments, or let us know how your day has been so far. Loads of, look at that, all the mono stuff here, right? There you go.
Nice.
So this is the default page, right? Welcome to Xamarin Forms. Now we know that our app is up and running, which is great. Love it. So Ozersono82 says me. So I assume that you're doing some Xamarin development, which is great.
B2C
Thanks
or
for joining us.
B2C or Xamarin or both. I mean, that just seems like.
Or both.
I mean, that just seems like both of them at
There are
once.
two me's there.
We're here, right?
Yeah.
We're dialed in. If you're doing both Xamarin and B2C, then we're dialed in.
Yes.
Nothing like
Right. So
7 a.m. Xamarin and B2C.
Well, 7 a.m. for some, 10 a.m. for other people. You learned the importance of time zones very early. So when JP was like, hey, let's do a stream, I was like, that's a great idea. How about 10 o'clock? I was like, that's perfect. 10 o'clock is great. He meant 10 o'clock his time, not my time.
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't know how else. It's like you should just do like a breakfast show. Like you should cook with everybody. Cooking with Christos. It'd be great. You'd make some eggs.
Yeah, I would love to.
Eggs matskas.
Eggs a la matskas,
Yeah.
right. So let's go back into our documentation and see how we're doing, because I assume that people were like, well, these guys are jumping around because they know all these things. So first of all, we have our Azure AD tenant, which we created, right? And then it says here, before you even create your app, just start adding some information into the application. So that's absolutely right. I think we need to go and create a constants class, because I like having all the information that we need into a constants file. If you are working with ASP.NET Core or ASP.NET or desktop apps, you had an app config file that you usually stick that information there. With Xamarin, you don't really have that. So we're going to create a static class to make it accessible to our application. So if we jump back to the code,
Interesting.
we're going to add a new class.
So there's I guess there's not any central place for config. That's interesting. I guess because
Exactly.
it makes sense now that I think about it. I guess I'd never thought about it.
So we're going to name this constants.cs. And here, we're going to add that information without the dot. And without that.
Oh, do you have a link to the doc that you're working through, just so that we can share it?
Absolutely, sir. We'll do that in a second. That's a very good point. Thank you. So here, grab that. And I'm going to stick it to our Teams call. And then you can do it yourself, because I'm not on Teams here.
Okay.
Huh. Hot dog stand.
Oh, that's some good news too. We forgot to mention was code spaces for Visual Studio is going away. It's all moving over to moving over to GitHub.
Would you like to explain why it is good news? Because people will be a little bit now confused.
Well, sure. So
by that statement.
in the classic Microsoft fashion, right? Why have one thing when you could have 8 that do the same thing, right? So I mean, we've had like 8 Azure portals at the same time and that sort of thing. So there was Visual Studio code spaces. So that was the in browser or remote code environment, right? Where you would essentially get VS Code in the browser, or your local VS Code could connect to it to do all sorts, for more horsepower, for certain packages or platforms or whatever. It was actually really neat, right? And it would essentially created like a VM in your Azure subscription, and you could connect to it. And then there's a nice web interface. But then GitHub was like, hey, JK, we're going to do that too. So in GitHub, there's a code spaces beta, so that so you could go and like open up a project in GitHub and click code spaces and just start writing code in the browser. Super cool too. And I guess the Visual Studio or the VS version never left preview, and so now it was announced over the weekend or maybe late last week that one's going to be, the Visual Studio version is going to be shut down in February in favor of the GitHub version. So GitHub code spaces are now sort of they're going to be the de facto standard, and so if you're using them, there'll be a bunch of info coming out about migration and what to do over the next few weeks. But it was a pretty interesting thing that came out. Here's a link to it. I'll put it in the chat. But it was pretty interesting.
And guess who has access? Who has early access?
Who?
You.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did. Hey, maybe we ought to code in it. Maybe we'll code in it next week or later today.
Now, tell me a little bit. Are you still having issues with account selection, subscription selection? Because with the Visual Studio one, you couldn't get to work because the default subscription was some random subscription that never worked, right?
Yeah, so in Visual Studio one, because the Visual Studio one would connect to your Azure subscription, right?
Yeah.
And your Azure subscription is linked to a directory or a tenant, an Azure AD tenant, so that because you need to sign in to your Azure to connect to your Azure resources and do things to them, deploy resources, whatever. Right. So your subscription is tied to a tenant, and so I found that when I would sign in, it wouldn't let me choose which tenant I like to sign into.
Oh, snap, man.
So instead I would sign in, and it would go, and say I signed in with like my corporate account, right? Well, my corporate account is a guest in like 25 directories, customer work over the years and whatever. And so instead of a tenant picker, it was just taking, first or default in the list. And my first or default, my index 0 of the tenants I was a member of didn't have any Azure subscriptions, so I couldn't use it. So I found a backdoor hack, which if you used the VS Code extension, you could create one that way, because that was a tenanted or directory specific endpoint, and created it that way. And then when you log into the portal, it works. And then a month later, they said, oh, by the way, this is all going away anyway. So it didn't really matter, because it works, which is super cool. But it doesn't matter because it's going to go away. And
so the one on GitHub, if I have a repo, that's allow me to launch my repo into that code space, and I don't have to, do a git clone and get started. Does it do it automatically for me? I haven't used it yet.
Yeah, and there's a settings sync, so you can sync your settings from your installed VS Code, and sync your extensions and settings like key bindings, all that sort of stuff. You can sync that with settings sync, and that goes up to, so that'll go to that one. So that's actually kind of neat, because like when we were on vacation in Michigan with my in-laws, I've got a Samsung, like a Galaxy Note 10 or whatever, and you plug it in, and you can plug it into a monitor and get like a desktop experience, right? And you do that with the browser. You go to VS Code, you go to use your code spaces, and you can code right there from a phone with a keyboard. It was pretty awesome.
From the phone?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That's insane, right?
Yeah. So.
Oh God, love it.
Anyway, it was a nice distraction, but all right.
No, it is a good distraction, right? Because if you can develop on the cloud from anywhere you are, you don't really have to have a beefy machine on your local machine anymore. In fact, I do most of my development on a VM these days, because you may have noticed I'm using my MacBook, and I'm not using my main machine because I did not want to install Xamarin and Visual Studio on my main machine that I work every day. I want to keep it light and clean. So all my development goes into VM. If that gets too cranky or too slow, or I have installed a bunch of junk that I don't need anymore, just wipe out the VM and spin up a new one with Visual Studio, with code spaces for GitHub. I don't even have to do that anymore. I'm just saying, I'm going to use a .NET development environment, go and spin it up for me, add some code, done. Either discard it or keep using that one for other projects. So it's great.
Yeah, super cool.
Mobile development is a little bit more flaky than that, as I found out. Like trying to set it up on a VM was not going well for me. So I was like, you know what, I might as well just use my own machine. So I feel for you mobile developers out there, if you have these kind of pains with setup and emulators and devices, then yeah.
Well, I'll be curious too, like, because our buddy Dan's going to come in a few weeks to talk about Flutter.
Yes, we're doing a session with Flutter, right?
Yeah, Flutter. Exciting. Flutter and Azure AD. So I'll be really curious to see what his sort of developer experience looks like. 'Cause I've never used Flutter, so I'll be really curious to see sort of what it takes to get from 0 to Flutter. Because I know that's one of the things he's going to cover, is just what kind of environment do you need to do this work. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be really cool. All right.
Awesome. So we'll be spending 3 hours doing the setting up for 0 to 100 with Flutter. And then the next stream will be coding with Flutter, right? I don't know, it might be 5 minutes, but based on my experience, it's not always as straightforward.
All right, so
righty-ho.
Where are we?
We copied some settings, and now we need to go and configure these. So if we go back to our app, you'll see our constants expect a tenant name and a tenant ID. Tenant ID, probably not the right one, because we could have used the tenant ID, and my name is just the first bit. So there you go, this one. I'm pretty sure we're going to need a client ID, so let's do static read-only string client ID equals, and then that information is also on the portal. So if we come back here, app registrations, we're going to hit our B2C app registration. So here, I so wish that our code and our UI matched in terms of naming conventions, but for now, we'll ignore that. We can't solve all the problems. And we definitely need a sign-in policy, right? Just to tell our app how it's going to sign in.
Yeah.
Sign-in policy.
So and what's interesting about the policies too is that's where you get the flexibility, right? Of being able to, like, certain policies may have MFA enabled. Some policies may not. So you may start without doing an MFA, and say I want to transfer more than $10,000 or do some sort of super sensitive activity. Then you would send a user back to B2C, but with a different policy that has MFA enabled. And they'd be sort of single signed on by the fact that they'd already signed in, but they will not have MFA'd yet. So it'll be their requirement to MFA. Then they come back to your app, and then you make decisions like, oh, you did MFA, so cool, we can let this operation happen or whatever. So it's kind of neat how you can really sort of blend different policies together at different points inside of your app. And around MFA specifically, there's also a new preview of conditional access in B2C.
Have you seen that one? That's what I wanted to show here. Yeah. We have authentication methods. These are preview bits, so you may not have them available in your portal yet. FIDO keys, which is amazing. Broker authentication and text messaging for MFA, multi-factor authentication for the uninitiated ones. I know we use some terms sometimes and we assume that everybody knows them, but I understand that you may not. Conditional access, which is awesome. Like this allows you to define who can access your app based on certain criteria. And I like the risky users and risky detectors. Like if you have a B2C, you get all these are these free? Or do you need to be on a specific tier?
Well, it's Microsoft licensing, so we can burn the rest of our 2.5 hours. But no, actually, it's fairly straightforward. So there is new monthly active user pricing.
Right.
That includes CA and risky user stuff. There are going to be some other changes, like in terms of the different SKUs you can use. There'll be like free ones that don't have that sort of stuff. But if you're using B2C today, those features are part of what you're paying for, right? Which is 0 if you have less than 50,000 monthly active users. So
exactly. I want to say that. Let's not frighten people away, because suddenly our numbers will go like, what the hell is it going down? One user logging in. So you have 50,000 free users per month. If you hit that number, I think your application is doing so well that you can pay the few pennies, because it is in fact pennies, right? Once you exceed the 50,000 user limit. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty cheap, and so you pay per monthly active user. It's like some fraction of a penny, and the more users you have, the more that price goes down. So for 50,000 to like 100,000 or maybe 500, I don't know exactly what it is, but some range, it's price A. For the next range, it's price B, and for the next range, it's price C, and it's all measured in fractions of a penny, because of course we're talking about users. So conditional access, though, being announced was really cool, because now instead of you necessarily saying you must MFA at this point, conditional access can control that sort of at a higher level.
Nice.
It's not the same as conditional access in regular Azure AD. I mean, it is, but it doesn't have the same. It's not as comprehensive yet. Of course, more and more features will get added over time. But and there's also password protection, which was a big one too. So here's, I'm just going to put some info in the chat around conditional access for B2C, because conditional access for regular Azure AD is sort of like the crown jewel, right? It's one of the best parts of regular Azure AD if you're an administrator, because it's what gives you sort of that pretty configurable identity protection. So that it's coming to B2C and that it's already started in B2C is really awesome, really good news. So. That says fantastic. That says singing policy, by the way.
Sishu.
Maybe.
Right, so that's our policy name. Let's go back to our docs and see what else do we need to do. So this is here. We've done that. We've registered our app already, so we're a little bit ahead. And so the UI is slightly older here, so we'll make sure we update that one as we go through. And we have the client ID added already. We already have the policy, so we can skip that level, but that point, but we can add it. We do not have a password reset, so we will skip that one for now. But this is where would you define it. So if your users want to do that, B2C provides an endpoint that they can go and reset their account outside the app and then come back and be able to use their account. Now, MSAL, we need to use MSAL to be able to authenticate our users. So if we go back into our solution, we got MSAL for .NET, which works on mobile as well. So if we come to the top level, something that we added recently is the ability to manage Minikit packages at the top level. So we'll do, sorry, I meant solution level, because in the past you had to go into each individual project and it was not nice. It was ugly. So if we look for Microsoft client identity, is that the right one?
Microsoft.identity.client.
And I can't type. There you go.
Yep.
Microsoft Identity Client, right?
That's it.
And it works with both AD and B2C.
Yep.
So let's add the package here. Now we need to add the package on all three projects because, as I said, we need to configure iOS and Android to be aware of the MSAL client, and they do some tricky bits with the redirect when it comes to the app. So let's OK that one. So that comes down, brings the packages up here. As you can see, download them.
Hey,
let's go back to
in your constants, it's the sign-in policy is sing in policy. Just so you know, just so we don't
mistyped it.
Just so we don't hit it later and wonder why don't we have a sign-in policy.
Well, we'll do constants dot.
No, it's true.
I'll take the lazy approach. Okay, let's accept this one, and it's coming down, adding the packages now. And we don't need anything else, so let's go back to our docs, and there you go. That's what we need here. Let's grab that one, and it says a login page, so we need to go and add a login page, as we said before. So back to our code, still adding stuff. Oh, that's a little bit slow. It's one package, man.
It's 3 packages, but it has 8 billion dependencies, you know.
Oh, there you go. They all came down. Now, let's go and add our page. Now, we only need to add the page into our shared class library.
Okay.
And I like the shared class library because it's a net standard library, which means that it's testable. If you write any code, it becomes automatically testable. So you can write unit tests to test the UI behavior. You can write unit tests to test the services and other code that you create. So unlike web forms, back in the day, or WinForms, you can code right or you can code wrong. If it's a small app, you don't really have to worry. Like right now, I'm not going to super architect this one and make it very complex and abstract it to make it testable. But if you are going to build a solution with many pages and lots of services, my recommendation is to break it down into smaller components, use class libraries, and start testing them out with unit tests and UI tests and what have you. Here, we just have 2 services, 2 pages, and we're only doing 2 calls to Azure AD. So from that perspective, we're going to be a little bit hacky, if you want to call it like that. But the nice thing is that this class library allows you to test it. Back in the day, you had PCLs, portable class libraries, and that was a pain to test. That was a real pain because the PCLs would compile into the individual projects, the iOS and Android, and it was hard to test things out. Now, with Net Standard, your life is a lot easier. Right. Let's go and add our page. Actually, let's add the code first, and then we'll add the page. So if we go into the app.xaml.cs, here, we're going to update this one to have this. And we also need to, let's go back to the app. Okay, there you go. We have the UI parent and this one. I'll explain what these ones are in a bit. But for now, back to our code. So fun enough, these ones, let's resolve the dependencies here. I think I can also do a command dot. No, it's not command dot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Resolve dependencies, so we have that one. Sometimes you will notice that, sorry, not sometimes. You'll notice that we have two public static properties here. These are actually global variables. Ta-da! It's like back to my VB.NET days, which means that any property that I've got here, it's automatically available throughout my app stack. So if I'm on a different page, I can do app.whatever, and will give me that information, which makes it easy to access the authentication client, for example. Constant and client ID. Why does not like the client ID? That's interesting.
It's not static?
Ah, yeah, we didn't make it static. Again, creating a global. I think it's constant, that's why.
Is there another constant somewhere that's like
I
conflicting
doubt
with
it.
it?
No. Constants. Uh-huh.
Oh, those aren't public, yeah.
Yeah. And you can do a multi-cursor. Let me see. Option, scroll. There you go. Like Visual Studio. So now, I don't get it. It's too early in the morning for coding, right? So what we're doing here is we're actually instantiating our authentication client, which is the one that goes out and picks up the information for our. So it creates the base, so we can go either authenticate, grab accounts, or grab tokens. You notice that there's a constant iOS keychain security groups. This is required for iOS only, but we still need to configure that. So let's go and add one more. And this one, I think there's something in the docs that says how we need to name it. And I have one, let me see. They don't have one. Right, okay. I think I found some information somewhere around here of what it should look like. If not, I can refer back to the docs. I think it needs to have a specific kind of format, and let's see. It's not in the docs. Then, what did we name it last time? So the naming needs to be something like a com dot whatever your company name is, and then whatever name you want to use. So in this example, then com dot, and then you configure that as well. You can configure that inside the iOS app settings, but I like to do it in code, easier. Here, so that should resolve fine now. We didn't name it authority sign-in. We named it sign-in policy.
Well, there's some,
and then here
there's some interesting things about that keychain too, because the keychain can be shared so that you can get sort of a quasi SSO, right, between different apps. So, like, if you have anybody who's installed, like, say, Outlook and maybe like PowerPoint or one of the Office apps on your phone, you'll notice that it's, you know. You'll open up Office and you've never, you've only used Outlook, you've never used anything else, and you open Excel and it's like, oh, by the way, these are the accounts we found on the device, that sort of thing, right? A lot of that's done by using, by essentially using shared keychains, right?
Right. Yes.
And MSAL handles most of the complexity of that for you.
Correct. So we have this information here. We're following the documentation. Now we need to create a login page. And the login page will do two things. One is at load time, on appearing as the page loads, it will look into our cache and check whether there's already a set of accounts or an account. And then if that account exists, it will try to use this account to silently go and acquire a token. And that will be the ID, the OpenID token and the offline token. Sorry, the scopes will be ID token. Sorry, OpenID token. Oh God. Right. We'll get an ID token back with the OpenID claims and the offline claims, which are the default ones, right? You don't have to define them again. But it says scopes here, and I don't think we have defined the scopes yet anywhere in our app. So see, it's not there. And I like how we have some gaps in the documentation. So let's see if it says how to configure them. No, it doesn't say anything about the scopes. So let's go and create a login page first. And since we're doing this exercise, we'll be updating the docs and refreshing them, because finding gaps like that, it's a useful exercise. And if you have any gaps, please let us know, because we want to make sure that you can use the app in the same way. So let's go login page. From here, you can say add a new file, and just make sure you select the right one. So if you go into Forms, it tells you these are all the things that you can add, and we want to add a Forms content page with XAML. Again, I said we're going to be using XAML for the front end and C# for the back end. You can also use F#, by the way. Did you know that?
Nice. That would be kind of neat. That'd be kind of neat to do.
It is, yeah. F#, I haven't done any coding ever in my life. Every time I look at it, it's like, oh, that would be amazing to do. And then you need to find a project to work on. And as with everything else, it becomes a little bit challenging to do that. So let's go back to our docs. What does it say here? Oh, we need to override the on appearing. So fine, let's do that. And as I explained, as the page loads, it will try to see whether there's an account already in place, and if we need to, account, so that.
So on appearing, I guess that sounds fairly. I guess kind of
right?
late in the page lifecycle, right? Like at this point, the page is just about ready to appear, right?
Yes.
Okay, but it has not. And does this block on? Yeah, because it's going to call base. So yeah, I guess it does block until you're done here.
Yep. But there's a number of options here to override.
Yeah. Okay.
On disappearing, on measure, on child removed. So there are things that you can listen to and execute. But I think the on appearing is fairly good. Yeah, so it will block here. In fact, it will not load the page and then redirect you to the actual login result page. Now you see scopes. We need to find the scopes. So let's go and get some scopes. What kind of scopes do we need? As I said, OpenID and offline access. So if we go back into our constants, and the scopes need to be a string array. And we have, nope, double quotes, it's not JavaScript.
Yeah, and offline access is important because that's what essentially gets you a refresh token. Although because we are not making any API calls yet, it's kind of
Yep. Yeah. Right. So we have that one, and so let's go back to our code. Make sure that everything compiles. We don't have any content yet. Oh, it says logout. I don't want to do a logout. I want to go into so from here, we'll go into the login result. You can name it anything you want, but I think login result will make sense. So there, and for that to work, oh, there you go. We need to resolve this one, which needs to be adding some link. Reference to system.link, and here it says, I don't know what you're talking about, so let's go and create a new page. It will be empty for now, but it will allow our code to compile, and then we can come and start testing things. Add a new file, again, contents, and then let's change that to be it'll be login result page. New, create that one. Let's close this one for now. And let's come back here to our login page.cs. Let's update that one because it's a page and I forgot to say that. There you go. Oh yeah, we need to go and update the login page to have an auth result in the constructor because we want to pass the result into the class or the page, and that's the way to do it. You pass it through the constructor. You can have other ways. If you were using MVVM, you could pass a model into the class instantiated. But for now, as I said, we're going to move fast, move efficiently. Authentication result, auth result. Let's create a private property here, private authentication result, and we'll resolve it soon. Authentication result. Nice, nice, nice. And you see this is a part of the identity client library, part of MSAL.
Yep.
And in here, let's do authentication result equals auth result. Do we have any questions on the windows, or is everybody just following along nicely?
Nope.
Right. No questions.
No questions.
Which is good.
Although I have
Why
a
they're
question.
going well. Go for it.
Imagine that. Why? I guess so. Like, why do we have to have two different pages? Why do we have login page and login result page? Like, I mean,
You don't have to. Just makes life easier.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Or like you could have a login and then you could get the control to disappear, and then come back. Like you could say, as soon as I log in, hide the stack panel and then display another stack panel or whatever control you want to put the information in, and do that. Yeah, you don't have to navigate to a different page if that's the question. It's totally down to you how you do the UI.
Okay.
I just thought that hiding and unhiding events and listening to events is probably a little bit more complex, whereas here we just go one page, takes you another page, and you're done.
Feels very web for me.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe because I've been doing webs for so long, I'm not a good mobile developer.
No. I mean, like the whole like hiding things and all that feels like something you'd do back in like the web form ASP.NET web form days. So
you just drop some jQuery there and you're done, right?
Well, I think we both.
But there's actually find by name or whatever, so you can actually interact with controls within your back code.
I think we've dated ourselves effectively now at this point.
Find by name. There's an API call to find by name and then interact with the controller or the control. Sorry, not the controller.
Okay, so once we have our authentication result, what are we going to do with it? What do we have available in that authentication result class?
Here, yeah. Let's crack it open. I think it's let's open it up. So what do we have? We have an access token.
Okay.
Which B2C will not give us an access token. It will be empty, right?
Well, we won't have one because we're not requesting an API. We're not requesting one, right? We're only doing a OpenID and OpenID essentially, right?
Yeah, we have a unique ID. We have an expire zone. We have an extended expire zone. We get the tenant ID back. We have an account.
Okay.
So that is the information that holds our user object.
Okay.
We have an ID token that should contain our claims. We have the scopes that we requested that come back, a correlation ID, a token type, authentication result metadata. No idea what that is. Do you know what it is?
Nope. I don't think
a user account.
I think it's just extra data about the round trip. All right.
And then, yeah, that's it. That's what is in the object.
So what are we going to do with the user now that we got them signed in?
We can display some information there, right?
Sure. What do you want to show them? The claims of the user?
Wait. Yeah, I mean, as I was going through this exercise the other day, we've realized that the username is not going to show up. So if I were to do, say, let's say sum control var name equals authentication result dot account dot username, we figured out that this is coming back empty from B2C.
Right, because there's no preferred username claim that comes from B2C, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, we were pulling back remember, we have our claims in our user flow. So if we go back to our user flow, if people are wondering where we pull that information across or where is that coming from, in the application claims, what comes back from the token, we have the display name and email address. And my assumption was because usually when it comes to B2C, display name is populated, especially in ASP.NET Core. I thought it would be the same exactly thing, but apparently this comes back empty. And that means that if we were to say welcome X or welcome.display name, it wouldn't work.
Well, what we could do is in custom policy, you kind of in B2C's custom policy, you can control what those claims look like. But yeah, without going there, we're kind of beholden to the names of the claims that B2C sends over. And
correct.
That MSAL account object is looking, I believe the claim name is preferred underscore username, and we're not sending that in B2C.
Right.
So that's why, username isn't going to be there.
And for that reason, for things to work, we need to be a little bit, no, I wasn't going to say high-key, but we need to look into the actual ID token, look at the claims, and then actually do something with the claims. But before we do that, I wanted first to actually get the authentication working.
Okay.
Right. So right here, what we're doing is on appearing, it tries to authenticate us, but we could do that, right? If there are accounts, well, we need to look if there are accounts. I don't want us to authenticate straight away. So I will say if accounts dot count is greater or equal to 1, then go and do this and navigate somewhere else.
To the result page or somewhere else?
Yeah, it will take us to the login result page. However, I want people to be able to interact with the page. So if we go to our login page now, maybe we can add some content here. In fact, we can add a stack layout. Let's add some padding. Oh, no, it's margin. Sorry, margin. And we'll add 30, 40. So left top, right, and bottom we'll do 0. Did you know you can use CSS inside Xamarin?
Nice.
It was a big debate in the Xamarin ecosystem when we announced that one, because people were like, what? And people thought it was a heresy because you were mixing XAML with CSS, and some people were super excited. But if you like to double with CSS, you can add classes. So you can have a class, and you can call that class from your CSS, and we'll decorate your UI elements with CSS, which is nice. If you come from a web development or background, it's great to be able to do that. So we have the stack layer.
Makes it easier, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you are more comfortable with that, I don't see why not. And giving people choices to work with things, I think it's great. No, I want to do center. I didn't want to. So here you can define how your control appears, and people may say that I am not doing it right, but it's fine as long as I can display the control, horizontal options, vertical options, center. And then here inside my stack layout, I want to put a button. Name equals login, and then text should say login, sign in or sign up, sign in, and then we need an event. So on clicked, I think. Yes, I want a new event, which should be on sign in clicked. And I think there's a way to actually create the I need to be consistent. One is login, the other one is sign in. Yeah, so I don't know exactly how you create the event handler automatically, but it's fine. We'll do manually hardcore. So it should be async. We want async, right? Because our MSAL library acts asynchronously. So async void on, I think I copied the name, on sign and collect. And then we want an object, which is sender. And then we need an event args e. On sign and collect. What's the problem here? Okay, we're lacking away, that's fine. So here, authentication result, we could Actually, don't think we need it here because we have the app.authentication. Oh, we don't have authentication result here. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we need to pass it into our next navigation page, right? So authentication results, and here we want to actually prompt the user to authenticate once they're here. Now they don't have an account yet, so there's nothing in the MSL library, and we want to do result equals await app.authentication client, and then we want to acquire token silently async. Oh no, interactive, right? Because we tried to do it silently, and we couldn't find anything, so we want that. Let me just start doing, and then let me scroll down a little bit so we can see. So here we have const dot scopes, because it expects the scopes. Then we want the with prompt dot force login with parent activity on our window, which would be app.ui parent. Now, why do we do this one? This is for Android. You need to define what the UI parent is, like what the main page or the page that controls has the elements there.
Right.
If you don't pass that, if it's null, then it actually fails gloriously, and we don't want that to happen. So you need to define it, and I'll show you how to do it later on. It's in the docs actually, and then we want to get execute async. So this is what we need more or less, and then we want to await this one. And then say once that happens, we want to do navigation dot push async, and that will push the new page into the right stack. Should be login.
The login result page.
Yeah, with the result, right? Because it expects you to pass the result there.
Okay, so stick with me for a second. Just because.
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially, when our page or when our view in our app loads, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's some sort of if we're logged in, essentially, if we have an account, then we'll go through acquire token silent, which for right now is kind of a misnomer, right? Because they're not really acquiring a token because we've already got a token by virtue of having an account, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then and if that's false, because of course acquire token silent will fail if there's no account, although we're checking for an account, or if it fails, we're not going to do anything, at which point the actual view will appear, and the view itself has this sign-in button, at which point we're going to log in interactively, right? Because the login interactively is the thing that actually shows a browser window and lets me choose my account and sign in and do whatever, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Are you with me?
Yeah. So is this going to happen? What kind of browser is this using right now in this configuration? Is this using my system browser or an embedded web view or what?
The first time I did, I wanted to test it without the embedded web view and see what happens, right? Okay. If that doesn't work, then I think the way around it was to use the embedded web view. But if you look into the B2C and MSAL authentication stuff, it says that it is designed to work with the default browser, i.e. Chrome for Android. Yeah. But there are some settings that we need to do before we can even test this one. We need to go back and, sorry, that's the wrong stuff. So if we go into here, is it this one? Yeah, it is this one. So we've done this. I'm skipping these ones because we don't want to log out. Parent activity with B2C authority. Oh, look at that. This one adds a B2C authority here, right? Interestingly enough.
Well, that's a forgotten password, right?
Oh yeah, that's is that the forgotten? Oh yeah, these are forgotten passwords. Sorry, yeah, you're right. So we don't have prompt, UI parent, okay, and then we don't care about the logout page yet. So if I scroll down a little bit, it says there are certain things that you need to do inside the iOS and Android apps to make things working, to get things working. Now, remember the enable keychain?
Yeah.
We already have one. We already configured it. Let's go into our app. I think the names need too much. So if I go into our constants, I'll grab this name. I didn't have to do it on my sample, but let's go and do the iOS stuff. So that will be open with property list editor. Is that the right one? Checking the docs quickly. It's URL tabs. Where is it? Entitlement, which I don't think it's the right thing I opened. Entitlements. There you go. Oh.
Do you do it from like the properties window of the iOS project, maybe?
Here?
Yeah.
Let's see. No, I think you need to right-click into that one and open with property list editor, apparently, which is the one I have open. Let's see how you open it. I mean, may have skipped one. B2C, MSL expects, register your mobile application. The following screenshot shows the custom URL scheme in info plist. Okay. Entitlements. Yeah, there should be a way to edit that. I don't know if maybe they're using Visual Studio for Windows, and Visual Studio for Windows may have a different. Let's see, maybe here.
Oh, look at the bottom. Source entitlements.
Duh.
There you go.
Well done. Well done, sir. Mystery solved. Now I need to go back in the source and delete the custom entry here. How do you delete that one? Delete row. There you go. Huh. Entitlements, right? And that was under
keychain.
Keychain. Enable keychain. Okay. And we just need to change the ASCII. So let's put our own one. What? And let's save this one.
Oh, it looked like there were two files. We had to change entitlements and info.plist, right?
Yes. So that's done. Saved.
Okay.
And what else do we need to change? Let's see. So we've done the entitlements.
Yeah.
An info plist. The following screenshot shows the custom URL scheme in info plist. Okay. We haven't opened the info plist, so let's open that one. Down here. Is it down here? Oh, identity. There you go. What was the URL types?
So that's talking about essentially a redirect URI, right?
Yep.
So go back to the docs. What does it say about? It's that URL type, right? What do we need to add there?
Add URL types, identifier and URL schemes. So what does the doc say? Identifier, Azure AD, B2C, auth. I think that's just a name.
Well, yeah, I think this is that's just placeholder though, right?
Yeah. And then URL schemes. What do we need for the scheme? So the scheme would be nice. What is the scheme?
It's the MSAL scheme, is it not? It says it's in the other doc, in registering your mobile app.
Oh, it's the same as this one. All right, let's go up. Register your mobile app. So the scheme will be MSAL blah.
Yeah.
And auth, right?
Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
And
it's essentially.
And we already have that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it'll be MSAL app ID /
app ID.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have to do it the last time I was testing this, so it may work. But remember, I didn't test iOS, so maybe that's why I didn't have any issues. So under authentication, you'll see that this is the scheme that we need to copy across.
Yeah.
Well, schemes. I hope it doesn't say MSAL at the end. Okay, it doesn't say that. Okay, save that. So that's our iOS done. Oh, no, not done yet. One more step. So let's go back to authenticate users. Here, surprise doesn't allow you to jump to the iOS things. And you need to go into the app delegate. This is what spins up the app inside iOS. So iOS, if we go back to the iOS project and go here in the app delegate, this is the one that actually looks into the app and says, now go and spin up the app, which is actually in our share class. And in here, we have to add this. And the reason why we had to add the MSAL library into the iOS project is because we need to reference it here. That's it. That's the iOS component done. And now we have to do the same or similar stuff to our Android component. So in the Android component, we need to come here inside our Android manifest, and we need to define the, what is it? This one, identity browser tab.
Yeah, which is essentially, it's like registering. It's essentially saying this app's going to do this, right?
Correct.
It's a permission system and permissioning systems in Android and iOS.
Yes. Yeah. Funny enough, when I was doing the AD stuff, it did say you need to make sure you enable internet, but here it doesn't say enable internet. Okay. Consistency for the win. I am as dumbfounded as you are. Right, so here we have the properties and then the Android manifest, and we want to open with the source code editor. And in here, I think it's inside the application. We will double check that one. Okay, I think that is there. We have these ones. Now we need to insert the URI scheme, which I think we already have from before. So if we jump into our B2C, we can copy that. I don't think, so it should be MSAL without the auth at the end, right? So here you are. We have the example just above us. Just make sure. I like the fact that at least they have an example, which is great. So that's this, and then we have to do something in the code as well. So if we go back into our users, we've done that. On the main activity, we need to make sure that we populate the app.ui parent. In fact, I will copy that and bring it down. So back to our code, into our main.cs. No, sorry, wrong. Main activity. See, I was trying to be clever, but I can't be clever because there's another. So we've done the override. We added the UI parent, which means that when it tries to do the authentication, it will know where to go. And then we want to take that one step up, align it properly. Am I missing closing? There you go. And then resolve the dependencies. And then also resolve this dependency over here. And fingers crossed, I think we're ready to run. Although there's a small error message here. What does it say? Was not found. Verify that you're not missing an assembly reference. I don't think we're missing an assembly reference from our login page. So let's save that one. Let's build. Any questions, thoughts, ideas? So far, so good, right? We added the B2C app registration, and then we added a little bit of code to Authenticator. Oh, it's still showing an error message. Login page was not found. Really? Oh, on sign in clicked was with correct signature. What did we do wrong here? All right, let me close this one. On sign in clicked.
Is that not the right?
What?
Is that not the right signature?
No, it should be the right signature. That's what.
Go back to your XAML for a minute.
Yeah.
To that page.
Sure. There. Sorry.
No, for the other one. Although that's not in. So that's not in your. That's in your login page.
Oh, that's the.
But there's no. But the button itself is in your result page. It's in the wrong. I guess it's in the wrong page.
Ah, damn it. Right. Okay. So how do you want us to do that? It's interesting. We added the controls in the wrong page. There you go. Mystery solved. So on sign in clicked. What's the other error message? On sign in clicked with correct signature was not found. Okay. So now that we fixed this one, it should build.
Is it building? Oh, good.
It's building.
Okay.
It's building. Almost there. Let's see.
It is really slow. Oof.
It is.
Is that a function?
It does some.
Is that like a function of just doing it on a laptop, or? Because you're on a laptop for this, right?
I am, yeah. Hey, I'm not buying a 15,000 Mac to.
I mean, is Android with Xamarin on Windows really that bad?
No, I think it's better. This one is taking its sweet time, isn't it? I don't know what it's doing right now, but my machine is getting ready to take off. All the fans are kicking in. If you are cold, just start working with Xamarin.
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Made some progress here. And then we're almost ready to actually deploy the app. 0 errors. So I think we are good to go.
All right.
Deploying to device. There you go. Let's bring the device up. In fact, there are settings here. And since we're going to be playing with the UI now, location, I want settings. I want to say emulator always on top. Synchronizing assemblies. The app has loaded. And I need to grab my password for my B2C, I think. Oh no, for the B2C it's fine. What? Invalid URI. The format of the URI could not be determined. What URI? Constant client ID. Dos. The format of the URI could not be determined.
Maybe let's make sure client ID actually has a value in it when you run it. I mean, it should, but just in case.
Client ID there. Interesting, right?
Yeah. Do they match?
Oh, you mean when you debug? If we come here, that's what you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah. You know what? I know what it is. It's this one.
Yeah.
It's not a sign-in policy. It needs to be the right authority.
Right.
So let's go and fix that one. We need to add the authority there. And the authority for B2C is of the format of, so let's do public static read only string, and then we can do authority base equals dollar HTTPS. We already have the tenant name, so we'll do tenant name, and then .b2c login.com, need an FTP, or TFP, sorry, TFP, and then you need the tenant ID. That one, and then we need the public static read-only string authority sign in, or whatever you want to name it, and that's the actual URL. So this one will be, nope, it should be authority base, and then sign in policy. And I missed trailing end there. So now if we go back into our B2C, sorry, the login page, we should use the authority sign in here. Oh, sorry, that should be in the app somewhere, not that constant. So that should be constants dot authority sign in. And that's the URI that was wrong, right? Because it was trying to find the appropriate B2C endpoint to go and speak, and that was wrong. So let's see this one. Almost there, peeps, almost there. We're going to get our first sign in. Let's see. Okay, I need to remove the breakpoint here. We don't need it anymore. I'm so confident in my code. There you go. Sign in.
Okay.
No message, nothing. Just a sign in button.
Okay.
So we click on the sign in.
Okay.
And that takes us to the browser. You can see it's loading our endpoint.
Okay.
Check that out.
Nice, nice. There's our login page.
That's the login page. Now, let's go back into our tenant, because I think we already created a user under my normal email address. So how about if we do, let's see, what do we have here? We have Outlook. We can delete that one because I want to use this one.
Okay.
So delete user. And go back to our app, and we'll do a sign up, right? Because we don't have a user under that account. So we're signing up. Email address will be christos.matskas@outlook.com. It's going to send me some verification codes. You can actually configure your app to not do that if you want to. There's a way to avoid having to do verification, but I like the fact that it verifies email addresses, right?
Well, we pretty strongly suggest that you should too, just by virtue of, especially because you pay for monthly active users. You don't end up in a position where somebody spams your directory and adds 2 million users, because now you're going to get charged for all those users. So
yes,
at least the first time.
Using my bank's account name. I'm just messing with it.
And now it's asking for your display name because you had that chosen as a user attribute in your thing, right?
Yes. So it's creating my account for me.
Okay. And now we're signed in.
And we're signed in.
But we don't have any content to show you, but we are signed in.
Yes. So let's go and very, very quickly add the something display, and then we can take a quick break and then come back and do everything all over again with AD B2C. Sorry, with AD, right?
Okay.
So login page result. We stop the information from running. first we want to add some information here. So do we want to do the code first, or should we do the UI first?
What are we going to show?
Well, I think we're going to show the claims, and we saw what is in the claims. The last time I did it, I had something like, what did I show the last time? I showed, what can we show there?
That's fine. Show the claims. That's fine. I mean, might as well, right?
Yeah, we could do that.
Because we're going to have to parse them anyway, so we might as well show what's in there.
Yes, true that. So if we go into the code, we can do private async. Let's private void get claims, I suppose, and then auth. We don't need that because it's already part of the class. How should we do that? Just thinking now. Our token equals authentication result dot ID token.
Yeah, because the ID token is for you, right?
Yeah. Would that be null at this point? Probably not, right? I mean, we can't get here without proper authentication. So should we guard against the null token?
Shouldn't be, but let's keep it just in case.
Defensive coding for the win. So we have this one, and what do we want to do next?
Well, so we've got there are a bunch of libraries available in .NET for parsing and checking.
There are indeed
tokens. So maybe we use some of those just so we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Well, let me see. So in here, there's a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Login page.xaml.
Wouldn't it be in your login result page?
Duh.
Yeah, because I mean, all of the JWT, I think it's in what, system.identity models, or system.identitymodel. Tokens.jwt, something like that. There's sort of the main JWT parser.
Yeah. So here you have the JWT security handler.
Yeah.
So we could.
So let's just get one of those. And this way, we don't have to parse the token manually. So certainly not.
Correct. So this one, resolve the code. Oh, what are we missing?
Well,
we're missing
it's probably. I think it's an extra NuGet package. It's system.identitymodel.tokens maybe.
Let's find out. You're right. It is in. That one.
System.identitymodel.tokens.jwt. That assembly is what you need. There's a NuGet package for that. Not for the tokens one, for the JWT one underneath it, for that assembly.
So this one, right? That's the one.
Yep. There's a NuGet package for it, so.
Yeah, I found the NuGet package the last time, so we should be able to find it again. So here, I think we only need to install this one in the actual class. So if we do manage NuGet packages in this project, and then we search for this one, right?
Yep.
System.identitymodel.tokens. Add package. So it will download it and add the package for us. We can reference it, and then you see here we have a couple of labels.
Yep.
So should we go and add them? Got a welcome and issuer.
Are we just gonna? Yeah, you just want to do some labels to show the text.
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I was thinking.
Cool. Yeah, let's do that.
Stack layout. Let's stack them up. Label x name equals welcome and text. Then we have label X name equals issuer, I think was the next one. Then we have label X name. What should we name the next one? What else do we have here? We have issuer, we have subscription.
Audience, subscription, audience, and email.
Okay. You keep me straight. Because audience, right?
Audience, yep, and then email. And email is kind of a curious one because email is actually an array, but we can just take the first one for now.
Yeah, I think that's what we're doing.
Because
just grabbing the first one.
We haven't done anything to our policies in B2C to say anything to make it easier to say to add a second email address for a user. So we probably don't need to worry about it just yet. All right. So we got our page, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that should be enough.
Okay.
That we haven't resolved this one yet.
Which one? Oh yeah.
This one, the JW handler.
Yeah.
And we also need to resolve this one because we need link. And you'll see here we're a little bit brute forcing it. So data.claims, we could actually dump into the class or whatever. So claims, and then we search for something that looks like name or issue or whatever. Maybe we need to, should we do a breakpoint here just to show people what the claims look like or the object?
Sure.
Okay. Now, interestingly enough, because we already have authenticated, we're going to skip the login and it will take us straight into this page. Or that's the plan anyway, right? Because we proved that it's we're able to authenticate once. And then maybe we do the social media, the social login with Twitter. So just to show both working at the same time. Almost there.
Building.
So there's not a lot of code, right? If you think about it, we spent a lot of time explaining, but we haven't really written tons of code. We had to bring the MSAL NuGet packets down. We have to do a little bit of poking into the ID token to grab some information, which you may or may not want to do or need to do in the app. And then we also had to do a little bit of configuration inside our B2C tenant to get things working. But other than that, I mean, 30 lines of code maybe? Some configuration on the iOS and Android project, and off we go.
Yeah, I think most of it's knowing where to hop, right? Of all the different...
Correct.
It's 90% configuration and 10% code. Kind of like WCF, I guess, where...
Yep.
I mean, because you've got to add the capabilities to the iOS app and the Android app, and you've got to add the keychain capability to iOS only, and just a lot of there's 1,000 places that have to make one small change, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And we forgot to actually load the... we forgot to call the get claims.
Oh, yeah,
so excited that we forgot to get the claims. Yeah, it's all working, man. Right, get claims. So here we are. Let's do it again. Yeah, I don't know if the hot reload would have worked. What? Oh, did you see that?
What happened?
Did you see that? Visual Studio Code crashed.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, Visual Studio for Mac crashed.
Nice.
Hey, we've been overworking it.
Can you do? I guess you can't do Xamarin. Can you do Xamarin and anything else? I guess you do it in Rider and.
You can do Rider, yeah.
I guess you could do it in VS Code. You just wouldn't have all the tooling for starting the debuggers and stuff like that, right? I mean, I would assume it's still there.
There was a team that was working on actually making it feasible to work in VS Code.
Right.
like a more lightweight option
Yeah. Because I mean,
to.
and I don't know how the emulators themselves specifically work, but I would assume they're just ADB commands, just like you'd have on a physical device, right?
Correct. And I don't know where we are with that. It's been about, maybe 9 months now since I last worked and sync with the team. So let's kick it off again. The emulator is still here. Don't know why it crashed. But having the ability to choose the tooling would probably be great. Like between Visual Studio, Visual Studio for Mac, Rider, Visual Studio Code, Vim. Almost there. Almost there. Sign in. It's loaded. It doesn't think we're logged in. Okay. So we're signing in now. We're signing again. He remembers. Thank you.
Easy enough, right?
Yeah. Signing in. Null reference exception.
Okay.
What did we miss?
So what was null?
That's a good question. Is it the auth result, maybe?
Could be.
Get claims. I thought we put a breakpoint here, didn't we? Oh no, it crashed when I put the breakpoint. So run. Okay. Interesting. What was empty? Right, we have a breakpoint now, so it should tell us where things went Uri.
Okay.
The token should be there. Oh well, you know what? We'll grab the token and we'll grab it again. That's a little stupid, but it's fine. We'll fix that.
Well, but are we in a case where we have no authentication result because we haven't signed in since? Well, I guess we'd have to sign in.
So what happens in the login page? Remember is there you go. We got the handler ID token. No, the ID token is there.
Okay, that's cool. All right, then something else. Then maybe you were missing a claim name.
Should we grab the token and maybe do a jot or whatever?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's go see what's in the token.
Hey, is it still broken?
No, it's fixed.
JWT.ms?
No, it's...
Did we fix the certificate?
Yep.
Ah, nice. Okay, let's see what we have. We have, I think, everything I want. We have the issuer, we have the subscription, we have the audience, which we're not looking at. We have emails, and we have a name.
Go back to your code for a minute.
Are we doing something silly?
Nice.
Ah, come on, Visual Studio. What's wrong with you, Jay? Okay. Oh, that was from before.
Oh, that was from before. Okay. Right. So you're looking for name, ISS, sub, odd, and emails. Go back to your thing for a minute. So we've got sub, emails, name,
issuer, sub, and emails.
Go back to the code for a minute. Let's see what's going on.
Okay, so let's do step over, data. Data is there.
Okay.
Check that out. Let's do step over. Claims are there. We have 11 claims, all good. Data is not null. So we have welcome text. Oh. That.
So which one was that? Which claim was that?
That was the first one, which was the name.
Okay, go back to your well, while we're here, well, I guess we can't reverse, but go back to your JWT.ms. Let's see what claims are in there. Is there one called name?
Yeah, down here.
Name. Okay. So first or default here probably doesn't really matter much, seeing as you're getting a dot value on it, so that's always getting. So if it's default will be null, so that'll happen. But look in the claims collection itself, and let's see what claims are in there.
Once we get here, there you go. We're here.
Okay.
Claims. Name.
Okay. Open that one up. Like expand it. Type is name. Okay. That's weird. Go back to your code for a sec.
Claims. First or default.
And open the claim collection again one more time. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
The field is type, correct? Should
Yes.
be.
Type.
Yeah. Interesting.
Dot value. We get the value out.
What is that? Well, what is that?
What?
Go back for a sec.
That? It did say that was null. Issuer is null. I think this is the problem.
Oh, you're trying to set it to controls that it doesn't know about.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, so why would those controls be null? This is very much a Xamarin question. So how do you register, or how does that code gen happen to say these controls are in the XAML? Is it like a partial?
Yeah, that's a
partial class thing.
That's a good question. No, I mean, when you add a control there in the XAML, it should register it properly. So login results, label welcome. Do we miss a?
Do you need to run at server? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I assume there's something similar to that, right? Like, how do you register this as being part of this page? Like, so I remember I only did a little bit of like UWP 1RT stuff, but I seem to remember you had to. There was like a part of the XML was to link. There was a specific element and attribute that said this is, essentially this class. I guess it's doing that by virtue of its naming.
It's up here, right? So X class is login result page.
Okay, and that's the name of your class, right?
Login result page. Wait a minute. Let's do this dot welcome.
Huh. Why? Oh, that's weird. I wonder why. Like, why would you need a this on there?
Well, you don't. You think you do? You do?
Well, it works that way.
Well, right? It says welcome. It's a label. It already knows that. See? It says a field. It's a label.
And then the text property is a property on there. I mean, I guess otherwise it wouldn't build. Yeah.
Getcher says the property.
That's pretty weird.
Let's see how. Let's see.
Do this first. Set your. Set your claim value to a variable, and we'll figure out if welcome's null or if your claim value is null.
Just want to see. What? Login. Oh, yeah. No, see, it's exactly the same. I just said the label with a name, and I changed the type of the font size. That was it. What the? This is super weird. Right? So we'll do this dot, which you shouldn't, but it says it's unnecessary.
Well, we'll at least see. Man, I don't know. This is kind of strange. Maybe do a clean.
A clean? Yeah, maybe.
In case there's something old left over.
We got the stack layout inside the content, so it should be right. I don't see what we could be doing wrong. Maybe I just remove that one, I suppose. Generated file successfully. Okay. Let's try it one more time and see what happens. Any Xamarin friends over there want to tell us what we're doing wrong? I love how you finish the authentication and everything else, and then what you end up with is fiddling around with the UI and trying to get things working.
Yep. par for the course, right?
Yeah, indeed. It's running, I guess. It's building. But we did a clean, so it has to do a full rebuild. Should we leave the breakpoint back here?
Well, we can at least see.
Yeah.
Removing previous, installing application on device. All right. Synchronizing. Okay.
It's coming. So it loads the sign-in page slowly. This.welcome is null.
Is it in like a?
Yeah, I think
is it in a weird scope somewhere?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what do we have here on the cat. Maybe we're doing it at the wrong place and these controls have not been instantiated yet.
Well, yeah. When are we doing it?
In the constructor.
Oh, well, yeah. Then they wouldn't be yet, right?
Let's see.
Well, you're doing that.
It's on appearing.
You're doing that in the on appearing.
Yeah.
When are you doing it in
that's
this
the
one?
problem. Inside the controller.
Oh yeah, it's before
the constructor.
it's before initialized component. That would be why.
Before initialized components. Duh. So we either move down there or we do a protected. Life cycle. People life cycle. Are we doing anything? We're not doing anything asynchronous here. Okay. Mystery solved. Only 2 hours in. Funny how I said it will just take us an hour. So then we can do the Azure AD stuff. Well, we can get started with the Azure AD stuff and then maybe do continue our stream maybe tomorrow or the day after that to finish it. So sign in. We should already be authenticated. And now, lo and behold, it's not empty anymore.
Good.
So let's remove that one and run it. Kaboom. Right. So welcome. My name. We got the issuer. We got the subscription. We got the audience, and we got the email.
It's subject, not subscription, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Is it subject?
Yeah. Subject is the subject is actually a super important claim because sub is that's essentially who the token is about. So the subclaim is it's the subject of the token. So everything in that token is going to be about that sub, and usually the sub is an immutable ID. In fact, I think it's supposed to be an immutable ID, so it cannot change that. So when you store stuff in your database, for example, the subclaim is what uniquely identifies that user.
Right. So this is us. Now we have authentication. Maybe, in fact, one of the last steps I had in here was to add a logout. So if I stop this one, let's go quickly and add a logout. Just to show how this would be completed, right? Sign out. God, I need to be consistent with my names now. And then here we'll have a collect. Ha! Victory. And I'm pretty sure why is it complaining about that? Property content is set more than once.
You can only have one top level item.
Damn you. So I need a stack. Oh, you know what? I need a stack layout. Control Z here. I need to just take it from there and then stick it in here. Because why not? Layers upon layers.
Sounds like
And
React, where you can only have one.
Yeah.
You can only have one layer, or one root, right? One root or one primary element at the base.
Just align it a little bit better. I'm going to copy these. So that's it. Now, if we want to go back into our code, there you go. That's our class over here. We can do authentication result dot, no, it's not this one, is it? It's the app.
It's the app.
I
think it's
dot, authentication client dot
yeah.
remove async. And then you do authentication result dot account. And then we also want to navigate back to some decent page, right? Otherwise, we'll just stuck here without anything. So we want to do here and go here. Nope, back to our code. So this will do, should take us where? Async. And this should take us where? Back to the login page, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't need to pass the result there.
Right.
And this needs to be awaited.
And what this is really going to do is trash the local metadata about that session, right? So the user is signed out of the app, but they're not signed out at the IDP. So they're not signed out at B2C that way. They're only signed out in the app, which is essentially the same as clearing your cookies for a specific site on the web, right?
Right.
So the app doesn't know who you are anymore, but B2C still does, meaning it's possible that you could try to log in again and you wouldn't have to do your credentials again. Although I think you had force login set on there, did you not?
Yeah. So here I want to do, I'm going to use Twitter this time.
Okay.
And then we'll take a quick break and we come back. For everyone joining us today, we've been working on a B2C app. Sign out. See, we have a sign out button. So that's taking us back to the right page. So if I press sign in now, it should take us to the sign in page for B2C. And I'm going to use my Twitter. Two-factor authentication for the win. So let's go back to my authenticator app. Kaboom! Check this out.
Nice.
So now, instead of using, so you notice that it's not Outlook anymore, it's my Gmail account.
Yep.
Everybody knows how to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. But in this case, I signed in with my Twitter account, which is great.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Cool.
We got it working.
Yeah.
B2C, end-to-end, a couple of misconfiguration items there. User error rather than other issues. We know that there are some gaps in the documentation. But now you can go and try and add it to your app and start logging your users. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and see how we can turn this around to actually do some AD authentication.
Cool. All right.
And then maybe add some code.
We'll see you in 5.
See you in 5.
Go. Okay, we are back. So,
And we're back. Yes.
we're gonna switch to Azure AD so we can do some graph stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
if you are building apps for your business, for example, like a corporate app or a line of business kind of thing, and you already use Azure AD, this is how you can use that, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So what I'm doing now is I'm committing this one. As B2C done. Git commit. Okay. And then I want to do git tag am. What is it? Git tag a and then m. Yeah, that's what I did, didn't I?
You know, we need to one day. I don't know when we're gonna do it, but one day we got to figure out a way for me to block internal org emails, because there's certain I get emails from people, well, from one person in particular, and I can't get off of the list. I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to delete them. I just want them to go away.
How the hell do I come out from this one? Escape what? Escape.
Q. Or,
damn it.
Yeah.
What did you not like about git tag a? What's that one, right? Git tag a m. What is not like? Git tag a. Forgot to put the tag name. Duh. Oh, God.
Q.
Yeah. Getting there. Sorry. It's B2C done. Okay. Now, rather than going file, new project, and starting all over again, we're going to do AAD. So for AAD to work, we again need to use the same MSAL. I think we need to change our information here a little bit. So I'm going to copy some of these. I can't remember if we need the sorry. Do that. Add them there. Let's go into our. I have my test B2C tenant. That's very the test AD tenant. That's very important. So if we go into home, let's go in Active Directory, and let's go and create a brand new application. Now we switch from B2C to proper Azure AD. That's very important. So you see a little bit of a difference in the UI, or quite a bit of a difference in the UI. App registrations. We want to add a new registration. Xamarin with AD. We want accounts in this organization directory only. We don't want to do any multi-tenant stuff. It's not web. And then we'll just press register. So let's grab the application ID. We'll need it. I don't think we need the tenant name. We might need a tenant ID. So let me remove that one. Client ID. There. If you want to follow along, if you want to see how the stuff is done, there's there's a nice tutorial from the Graph team that explains how to use Azure AD, and this is what I based my information. In fact, as you can see here, we have the application ID, we need scopes, and redirect URI. So let's do that. Start the right way. Got the client ID, which should be the new one. We don't need a tenant. You know what? I think we need a tenant ID, because if you don't do that, it will assume that you are doing a multi-tenanted app, and it doesn't like it. So we need to add the authority as well. Let me see. This is the B2C stuff, so I don't want that. Then the reason why I'm in a different browser is because I need to log in to my different tenant. Redirect URI. Let's go back to our app. Let's add some authentication so we can get the redirect URI. Add the platform, very similar stuff. Again, we'll do this. Mobile app, we'll grab the MSAL. I'll copy this and we'll configure it. And since we're going to be working with Azure AD, we also want to work with Graph. I'm not going to add any scopes right now for it, so we'll leave it as is, but we'll come later on and you check in the API permissions. We only have user.read for now, which is just the default, and we'll fix it in a bit if we have enough time. So user.read here, let's remove that one. Client ID, and then the redirect URI is this. Sweet. Let's go back to our tutorial. We got that, got the app ID, implement the sign-in. And sorry, I am skipping a few things, but we've already registered the app in the portal, so we don't need to do that again. And we're adding the authentication right now. So we already have the MSAL libraries downloaded. We need to come into the page, into the app. Now I found this code a little bit more involved than I would like to. So certain things they're doing here, they do a lot of stuff in the app launch. So they have iNotify property, I think, property change. So when things change in the UI, they do that. We're just going to do login and then go to the next page. And for us, will be login. And then once we log in, we go to the graph page, right? So since we're doing graph work, so we don't want to do anything in the app here. We need this one, which we already have. We need this one, which we already have. We have an app, public client application inside our app.cs, and the scopes we need to add. So let's go and add our scopes in the code. We already have some scopes up here. And for now, we're just, we already have scopes, sorry. But we have the string. It needs to be an array. And I had an extra space there.
Now, some of these aren't static.
Yeah, I know. Different way of coding things. Remember, we copied it from. Okay, so we got this. Let's go back into our sample. What do we need to do? We need to create our public client application. You notice that it's significantly simpler. And we can go back into our login page now. Actually, sorry, it's the app. So that was the old code. We'll do some cleanup later. And here they're doing a builder. I don't think we need to do that. Let's do authentication client. For us, it's a constants client ID. And then we're doing with redirect URI. which is in our constants. It was the same name. I'm just going to do iOS keychain group, so there'll be constants. Oh, we need to add it back in. See, we removed it from our constants, so we need that one as well. But we need to rename it to something else. Let's rename it to IAD Authentication. There. So let's go back to our code. And yes, we'll do a build. Yeah, sorry. There you go. So this should create a public client. What is what's not like in there? Maybe it's lowercase. Yeah. So this will build the. Let's do that. We'll build our public client application builder. Now, what I found is that if you don't define with authority, it will try to go to the common endpoint. So it will try to log in. It's like a multi-tenanted app. So we need to make sure that we provide the AD authority audience. Azure AD my.org, right?
Yep.
There you go. See, I did not know that. I went and created a.
I think you'll have to have your.
Yes.
I think you'll have to have your tenant ID in there too, so that it knows about it.
Yeah, I think the last time I did it was I built the authority. So if you want to find what the authority looks like, so it should be Azure AD authority.
Well, I think that method has an overload that lets you give it the tenant ID.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah.
Let's find out. But if you want to work out how to find your, so we're not, by default, it will try to do common, and we don't want to do that. So what I want to do is we want to use this, right? But you're right. Let's see if there's a nicer way to do it. What the hell did that come up? So you're saying here?
I think with authority has a, yeah, so there's
authority.
My org, and then, no.
Well, it says.
I think you'll need a tenant ID then.
Yes, and you can provide, is there a with tenant ID? Ah, nice. And we already have the tenant ID.
Yep.
Because we forethought about that. So yesterday, rather than doing that, I put the last time, I put the URI to the tenant, and that should work as well. So you don't have to define it this way, but this is actually quite nice. I like it.
Yeah, it's clear, so that if somebody came behind you, they'd know this is
correct.
Just my
and you also
org.
Don't have to. Yeah, correct. So this one will take us to the login page, right? This is the login page. We don't need to change anything here in the login page. SAML. We will do the same thing. Actually, no. Here we want to try to grab the acquired token silently. And if it's an MSAL exception, what do we need to capture for this one? I can't remember. Let's see. Let's go back to our docs. It was a case of authenticate users with.
Isn't that still our login page though?
Yeah, it's still a login page, but we need to capture the MSAL UI required, right? We need to say, oh, you don't have a token, correct?
Yeah. So first
you don't have an account.
Yeah. So
you need to authenticate.
Yep.
And interactive request. There you go. Let's grab that one. So here, back to our code. So we're saying, well, we don't have any accounts here. Let's see. Okay, so on appearing, what do we want to do? On appearing, we want to get the accounts. And if there are no accounts.
If there is an account, we want to try to do it silently.
Yeah.
And then if there isn't. Or if we error while trying to get if we error because we need to do interactive, that's where we catch the MSAL. It's like MSAL UI required, I think.
Yep. For now, let's create a page that will be our page holder. Add new file, forms, content, graph page. Just doing it. Cool. Let's close this one down for now because that will be step number 2. And then if nothing happens, have the sign-in page, right?
Yep.
And then here we want to do what we copied.
Well, we want to do that, right?
So this one is app dot authentication client acquired token interactive. We have constants with the scopes, constant scopes. If you add auth, I think it's a UI parent. UI parent.
I mean, that's essentially what we've got in our try underneath, right?
Right here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Acquire token interactive.
Yeah. So we don't really need to. There.
Yep.
And we don't need to pass the result. Or, well,
we need to go to the graph page too, right?
Yeah. We need to pass the auth result to the page, right?
To the graph page, right?
Yes, because we need to have the token there, the access token to pass to our graph.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so here. So let's go and update our graph page to accept the result. Resolve this one. Okay, so login page comes in. If we're already, if we are already authenticated, we'll grab the token and send it to the graph. If not, the user has to press the sign in button. They will sign in, and then we will take them to the graph page as is. So that means that we should be able to try it now. We should have enough there, right?
Okay.
Did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Where this app now is wrongly named B2C, but we will clean them out, we'll separate them. So when it comes to writing the blog and showing you how to do it, you should be able to have 2 distinct projects there to work with. Just for the sake of time, we're hacking it on the same app. Sign in. So we don't have an account, which is correct.
Okay.
Let me. I don't remember my super long password. So here now we need to sign in, and this should take us to my Azure AD tenant. There you go. It's those dots or at. I'm not as fancy as JP with my own custom domain. Maybe one day I will grow up to have one. Paste. Next. Sign in. Right. You'll notice that automatically here I got 2-factor authentication without me doing anything, right? This is fantastic. So my 2-factor authentication worked as before with B2C 559752. Check this out.
Nice.
We're cooking. So now it says you want to sign in and read your profile and maintain access to the data that you have. So that's the OpenID and offline access by default, so you don't have to define them. And we say accept. And that should take us to the graph page, which is empty. I got this yesterday. Now this is fun. You get stuck here forever. and it doesn't return.
Why?
Why? Oh, why? Oh, why? Let's see. Authenticate users. There you go. So after fumbling around for a little while, I found out that you need to configure something inside your browser tab activity. So inside the manifest, you need to go and configure something, and that's the scheme and the auth, which I do not think that we configured before. So now we need to go back into our app, stop the app. So if you come across this kind of weird error that it spins there forever and doesn't return.
Yeah, because it's different. Because our client ID is different. Although I thought it was in your constants. It was being set, or in your manifest. It was being set with a. Oh no! It was somewhere else. Never mind. Yeah, you're right. We do have to fix it in there.
No, yeah, we have to fix that. So Android manifest, source code editor. Here.
Yeah, that has to be your client ID.
Yeah. And then our client ID. That client ID is in our constants. So let's go and grab it. And it was very subtle. There.
You need another 6 at the beginning.
Another 6?
Yep.
Did I miss something out? Oh, damn. Check you out, man. Keeping me straight. Like it. So that should be it. I think network access. That's right. I think you also need one more permission. So if you go into the actual Android update internet, there you go. That's the one you need. Don't ask me why. I'm following the docs. Right. Let's take it for a spin again and see what happens. It's deployed. It's almost there. And I think once we do this, we'll do a summary of what we discussed today, because we need to jump out slightly earlier today, unfortunately. Sorry for the folks that are on the call, but we need to finish about 15 minutes earlier, because right after this one, we are going to the ASP.NET stand-up Twitch stream. We will take you with us if you want to stick with us and talk about everything that is new in the identity space for ASP.NET Core developers. We got some really exciting stuff. If you do anything with ASP.NET Core, then I would highly recommend that you stick with us. Ain't that right, JP?
Yep.
Ah, look at that, he remembers. Thank you, Chrome browser.
Yeah, I was looking at the URL, and you can watch the stream. It's like, there's a Twitch URL, of course, but it's also at live.net. live.dot.net.
Oh, check that out. Sign in, done.
Nice.
Right. 25 minutes until the startup. Yeah, we got plenty of time. Maybe we should do the graph there while we're at it, right? So this is our graph page. In fact, we have it working. I think we could get started with the graph stuff, right?
Might as well. No better time than the present, right?
Yes. Like, we should take advantage of every single moment. So it was very easy to switch from one to another. Super easy. So we added the Azure AD specific information here. Then we went into our app. We had to change a couple of things, like add the authority, because we want to say which authority or tenant we're logging in, whether it's public cloud, private cloud, whatever. And then the tenant ID to tell exactly which tenant we need to look at. If you're creating a multi-tenanted app, then you don't have to do this. You can actually skip it and it will work out of the box. And then from here, we go to the login page. Oh yeah, we go to the login page as the first one. Once we log in, you notice here that we try to do it silently. If that doesn't work, then we prompt the user for a sign-in, and once they log in, they go to the graph page, which is empty for now. So here, in order for us to be able to work with graph, now we mentioned a little bit about that in the beginning, but maybe we need to recap what we're trying to achieve here, right? JP had the idea, so how about you take it?
Yeah. So okay, if you're building an app, say a line of business app, whatever, something internally, right? You have access to things like the graph, which you don't really have in B2C, which it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for B2C either, right? Because B2C is for essentially a password database replacement, whereas Azure AD is something that drives your organization, the Azure subscriptions and Office 365 and all that sort of stuff. The advantage, though, is that with Graph, there is a rich amount of information about you and the people you work with. And so we thought it'd be neat to use the People API to show what other users you are sort of frequently working with, right? So if I wanted to go find who I frequently work with, I'm almost certain that Christos would show up probably high in that list for me, but we thought it'd be neat to have it in an app, especially so that you could send him a message, send him a note, send him an email, whatever. I think for now we'll start with just showing you who those people are, and then maybe in the future we can add things like sending an email through Office 365 with Graph, right?
Yep. Yep.
But at least for now we'll just sort of pull a contact card and show that person. So that's what we're going to do.
Correct, Mendo. So here, the call is very simple. It's just me and then people, and it will pull the people that you frequently work with within your org, which is great because you might, as I said, we're going to call the app My Peeps, my friends, my colleagues, or whatever you want to call it. And then you'll see here that by doing this call, it actually pulls all that information across and allows you to quickly interact with them. And if you go through the sample that we were working with, the Build a SAML Lab, you notice that all the way down here, it does the authentication, which we've done already, and then storing the tokens, and then it's getting the user details. So they are using the Graph client or the Graph SDK to do that. I think we can do the same because it makes your life a lot easier. So how about we go and do that?
And it's worth mentioning while you're doing that too that IMSAL was built in a way to make it as little disruption as possible to switch between B2C and Azure AD. There are differences, of course, in how you use B2C and the kinds of apps you might build with B2C, but when it comes to the actual development side of it, there's significant effort put forth to make sure those APIs are the same. So you get tokens the same way, you sign users in the same way. It doesn't matter if you're using Azure AD or B2C. The developer's job is largely the same. The real difference comes in what other kinds of resources you need to access, and who does the configuration. If you're a developer, you tend to configure B2C. If you are an administrator or IT pro, ops person, you tend to administer your organization's Azure AD. So there's a little bit of a difference, but it's not, the developer experience itself is largely the same.
Yeah, we didn't have to update anything in the project. We just changed the endpoints that we're looking at.
Yep.
And with doing that, we're able to acquire the right token and the right information to be able to work with whatever we want to work. Right now we have the user profile, and now we want to go and add Graph. Just to mention, if there are any APIs that are in the beta space, right? The people one is actually in the V1. So here it's a V1, but there's a beta API that probably provides a lot more advanced features that are coming to the V1.2 or V2.0. If you want to work with these, you need to actually go and get the right packages. And there's a package for beta as well, if you need to work with that, just as a reference, if you're trying to understand how things work. Right, so let's add the package, and we'll add the package only to our SER project. And then in here, as we come in, we have the auth result. So let's create a new function, except this one, yep. Let's what should we do? I'll do void for now. Get graph data. Async void, because And if we go back to the sample, we have a new delegate, blah. And this allows you to go and grab the information. So the call, hopefully we have it. Let's see. It's done for now. Yeah, we're using the graph. We'll say our graph client, because new graph client. However, we already have our auth result here, so we don't really need to. We need the scopes, obviously, but we don't need an async because we don't need to await this one. Do you remember at the top of the head how to do it? We don't need to await that one. So
why don't we need to await the acquire token silent? Oh, because
we already have the token.
Oh, because we already got a token. That's right. Well, yeah, I guess there's probably a discussion worth having of the differences between all those, but
okay, tell me.
Well, if we're only using this graph client here, it's probably not a big deal, right? Because we're essentially instantiating it here, and then the delegate provider is going to go, it's going to go call that essentially before anything goes out. So because we have it, it's probably, or because we're only making graph calls here in this one view, it's probably not a big deal. Okay. But if you were doing it, if we were like injecting these graph clients, like if we created one and we're using DI to create a singleton one and pass it around or whatever, we'd want to have our token acquisition happen in that delegated provider, so that at any point that handles getting its own token as opposed to us handling getting the token and making sure it's available, right?
Right.
So for this, I think it's fine. It would be if our code was structured differently, or if we were building something huge and we needed graph all over the place, we needed a graph client all over the place we wanted to reuse, that's where we'd have to worry about that.
Which one do we want to use now? It says system.net.http headers. Okay, that's the one that we want. Yep. And we have the access token. And then here we can do the call to var data equals graph client dot me dot people dot request dot get async, and that should be awaitable, and that should be it. I'm gonna put a breakpoint here. We're gonna call it, and then
hang on. Our delegate delegate is broken.
Oh, is it? Oh, come on. What are we missing?
Not all code paths return a value. Just return task.completed task.
I forgot to return the task, yeah. What?
System.threading.task.completed task.
Yeah. I didn't have task, and the problem was that it autocorrect went nuts. There you go. Thank you, sir. Good catch. One call.
We got to call get graph data at some point too.
Come on. Same error.
Yeah.
Same mistake like the last time.
And then we have to have it go somewhere too, right? Like to be shown.
Yeah, but for now we don't have enough time to do that. So I would say. What does not like?
Can't await void. Have get graph data return a task.
No. Oh, wait.
Well, you're awaiting get graph data, which is void. So we can't await
Ah.
void. Just have that.
So what's return? Saying task. Yeah. Task, sorry. Gotcha. Tan, tan, tan. At the nick of time.
Yeah.
But if that's working, then all we have to do is actually stick it into a collection view for the display mode, right? And then we can maybe grab the image, the picture of the user, and then their name and their email, or last time talked to, or whatever. That information is provided by the People API.
That's true.
And we can create some nice rows there, and then we can start interacting with these users, like send an email or send a message or whatever.
Right.
Oh, check that out. We already authenticated, which is great. We already had the token as well. You know what? It's not going to work. Why is it not going to work?
Did we
What did we
not
miss?
include the right scopes for you?
Well, we had, first of all, we didn't add the right scope here.
But that's okay. We can
Right.
still request them just in time.
Or can we?
You don't have to have them here.
But we did not include them into the request.
Correct.
Right? So the scope that we request the token for is not the right one. So close.
People.read.
So it's oh. Should we run it?
Yep. Let's run it. Then we gotta skate.
Well, we're not escaping. We're taking it with us.
Well, no, that's true.
And there will be probably a small delay because we're going to skip from one machine to another, and we have to come from this meeting to another meeting. But we will see you in less than 5 minutes once we switch or swap. Switch. Thinking about it? What is it doing? We did do a deploy, right? Sometimes. Oh, execution failed. Oh, you know what?
Object reference.
Android. Which one?
I don't know.
I think that.
Yeah, I don't know why that one's not even showing. That one's not even getting called, right? Unless it is something.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes Visual Studio for Mac or Visual Studio just goes bah, and you have to start all over again. You have to close the solution and start again. So if the clean is successful and this doesn't work, then we'll call it a day here. But it seems to be working now. Execution is working. And sometimes you have to also close the emulator because it doesn't work. Thinking about it. And then we have a breakpoint here in the data. So at least we could see the data coming in. Taking a sweet time.
John says we're going to go for 0 downtime.
Oh, check that out. I think the execution is failing here. Right. I think this is the point that we call it a day.
It's cool. We'll catch it up. We'll wrap it up by Thursday.
Oh yeah, we'll probably do an ad hoc stream this week to finish it up because we hate leaving things unfinished, right?
So cool. Well, thanks everybody. We're gonna go to Visual Studio here in just a few minutes. Christos and I we're gonna switch back to a to a holding page for a couple minutes so we can get ourselves sorted, and we will see everybody at the ASP.NET stand up in about 10 minutes, and after that we'll be back maybe tomorrow and definitely on Thursday. What do we have? Anything good on Thursday?
We have JetBrains and Ryder coming on Thursday to talk to us about Azure AD authentication and building awesome apps with Ryder.
Nice. All right. Looking forward to that one. That'll be fun. All right, everybody.
Got Martin Ballier coming. So we'll see you on Thursday. We'll see you probably tomorrow. Thanks for sticking with us, and see you in a few minutes.
See ya.